We've all heard rumors and have gotten small pieces of information about Disney and how Lucasfilms is ran under the company. Obviously, when Lucasfilms was bought by Disney back in 2012, it really made fans worried that they would just completely tear apart this beloved franchise and ruin it. I know that I was personally hoping that because Disney was such a large company with so much money behind them, that they would produce extremely high budget, perfectly written Star Wars experiences, but unfortunately they haven't. I know that, the reception to the sequel trilogy is extremely mixed. You have people that really love it, and you have people that really dislike it. I was hoping that it was going to be good. The Force Awakens was a good basis for a trilogy, but unfortunately, just the acting was poor, the writing was poor, the production was okay, obviously, because it is Disney, but overall, the reception to the sequel trilogy was extremely mixed. But in this video, we are finally hearing confirmation from a former editor at Lucasfilms about how the company is ran now, plus how it is completely different than it used to be. This is a Bounding Into Comics article. Former Lucasfilm and Star Wars editor J.W. Rinzler describes Disney was all about control, fear, and paranoia. As a consumer, when I hear these terms, it makes me extremely worried, and I bet Disney and Lucasfilms don't want these words being thrown around about their company, but it is interesting to finally see someone come forward and describe all of their experiences with Disney. Former Lucasfilms editor and author J.W. Rinzler, who wrote The Art of Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, as well as the making of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, recently detailed what it was like under Disney compared to George Lucas. Rinzler, who wrote and published the making of Star Wars The Definitive Story Behind the Original Film, chatted with the Force podcast about his initial rejections from various Lucas-owned companies, as well as the interview that eventually landed him the position of editor for Lucas Licensing's book division. I did listen to this podcast. It is a great podcast, really well done. It will be linked with this article in the pinned comments in case you want to listen to it for yourself. Much of the beginning of the interview focuses on what led to the creation of the making of Star Wars books. Rinzler detailed that Lucas was a pioneer and early adopter for quite a bit of new technology, including digital filming. Not only was he a pioneer and early adopter, but Lucas had kept extensive records for an anthropologic sake dating back to American graffiti. When he arrived after he was hired, he pitched the making of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. He then detailed his pitch for the making of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith that led to the multitude of other books. Rinzler explained, "The time I got there, I was in the book department. The book department in a way was lacking behind all that, though nobody's fault. They were farming it out instead of doing it in-house." He added, "When I came along, I think for the first time, I think most people in the department were more interested in Star Wars as a story, not how they were doing. I was like the first one, I think. I don't know for sure, though. At any rate, probably the first person to come in who wanted to know how they did the movies and had an interest in that." Rinzler then stated, "So when I met with Rick McCallum, I pitched him the idea of doing a behind-the-scenes book for Episode 3 that didn't just talk about the visual effects, but talked about everything from the concept art to editing to spotting the music to the scoring to the release of the film. And Rick, bless his heart, just in the office at that moment, said, 'Yes, let's do it.' I know that I've collected a lot of Star Wars memorabilia over my life, and I've collected a lot of books like this. I actually own several of these books. I love these type of books, how you get to see, like it says, like the concept and the editing and the music and just everyone behind the scenes. I love these books. I think that they are fantastic, and J.W. Rinzler is is a pioneer in these type of things. I mean, he's a great writer. He continued, they hadn't even released episode 2 yet when I started documenting episode 3. And that's how that happened, and eventually got to know George after a long time, and that led to all of the other books. After detailing his initial experience with Lucas's book department, Rinzler is asked what made Lucas's storytelling different from other studios in the 80s and 90s. And he responded with, well, I mean, what was great about Lucasfilm and working at the ranch and the big ranch and so on, there was a lot of autonomy. We were only 30 people in the licensing department. It changed, fluctuated a little bit. We were 3 or 4 people in publishing, and those 30 people more or less oversaw international and domestic the entire Star Wars franchise, from toys to skateboards to t-shirts to bathroom products to all of the books and comic books. Of course, publishing was only a small percent of it, he continued. Rinzler then detailed that their customers that included Hasbro, Random House, Dark Horse, and Lego, among others, could just pick up the phone and call them without having to deal with the mid-level bureaucracy. He went on to detail that his first day on the job, he was given a copy of a VHS for the work in progress for episode 2, and he needed to watch it to understand what was going on in order to work on the book surrounding episode 2. Then, as reported by Disney Star Wars is Dumb, he contrasted this experience with Disney taking over Lucasfilms. Rinzler explained, when Disney came on, and I will say this, I don't think it violates any NDA, I had been there for 15 years. I worked with George Lucas for all of those 15 years, and I couldn't see a script for the longest time for The Force Awakens. He continued, so it was just the polar opposite of ways of working. It was all about control, fear, and paranoia. Not that Lucasfilms, we had some of that. I mean, it wasn't like it was heaven on earth, but it was far and away, like day compromised to the night. It was just so much easier, you know. We didn't torture the licensees, he elaborated. I mean, Lucasfilms was built on a dream and emotions, and Disney doesn't care about any of those things. Do you really think that the shareholders and CEOs care about passion projects? Heck no. All they care about is their bottom line and making more sales this year than they did the last. I'm not oblivious to this, but that doesn't mean that it's not disappointing to hear that someone that's been with the company for so long, 15 years, saw the hands of the company changed and was extremely disappointed with just the way that it worked inside the company. He continued to compare and contrast Disney with Lucas's style of management. Some of them could come in and read the script, not everybody. But like, you know, the head person, whoever needed to read it for that company, could read it, so they knew what was going on. He concluded, so there was just a lot of cooperation, a lot of sharing information, and a lot of autonomy. If I decided a book was done and good, it was done. It was published. Like I said, this will be linked down below in case you do want to listen to it for yourself or read this article for yourself. But am I extremely surprised to hear that this is how Disney is ran and how the Lucasfilms changed when Disney bought it? No. We've heard so many rumors about the company and how it is ran and how decisions behind the scenes are made, and I know Disney is a massive company who needs to protect their IPs and new projects, but it's just sad to hear that this passionate editor is saying it's completely changed now. It's all about control, fear, and paranoia. These are very, very intense words to use, and it just sounds like the company changed, and unfortunately not for the better. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Are you extremely surprised to hear about control, fear, and paranoia at Lucasfilms under Disney, or are you not that surprised by it? If you enjoyed this video and found it important, please make sure to give it a like, and of course if you did not, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.